Welcome to this slide presentation, a celebration of creation, our Kakadu and back trip of 2025. I'm Jim Twelves, and come along for the ride and just enjoy the journey. Our first night was in Parkes, New South Wales, our coldest. The ground frost in the morning was all over the grass. When we awoke, we couldn't see through our skylight on account of the icy blanket. We travelled north into Queensland, seeking the sun and the warmth. Here is the sunrise in Tambo. Longreach Queensland was a major stop on our way. The Qantas Founders Museum is located here, and within it, a heritage hangar dating back to 1922. Still in Queensland, the Twin Peaks, not that you can see them, dating back to the mid-Cretaceous at a place called Dinosaur Creek, apparently the eternal resting place for some very large creatures of the past. Into the Northern Territory, here we are at Daly Waters on the Stuart Highway, with some very creative gents' conveniences. Then, when you cross over the road, you find a do-it-yourself Hungry Jack's drive-through. Progressing into tropical country, Markuta Thermal Springs, we had a look on the way north because we didn't know whether we were allowed to go in, but on the way back we had a dip. The water stays a constant 34 degrees centigrade. A little further north, Catherine Gorge. The crocs here are mainly freshwater, only growing to 2.7 metres long, and they're usually harmless to humans. The gorge has been cut by torrential tropical rainfall, in the wet season in particular, eroding a grid-like pattern of right-angled gorges as the joints in the rock have been enlarged. Further north again, on the west of the Stuart Highway, is the Litchfield National Park, a day trip south from Darwin. A massive granite highland with innumerable rivers cascading off the top, creating massive plunge pools at the foot of the mountain for aquatic pleasures. One of the residents of the park, a common crow butterfly. On the edge of the park, fields of magnetic termite mounds can be found, some 100 years old. The winged buttresses of these monuments are orientated to the Earth's magnetic field, which keeps changing incidentally. We drove into Darwin, but if we had flown, we might have seen this 4-prop Lockheed Martin C-130130, otherwise known as a Super Hercules. Sunset over Darwin Airport. The sunset ritual at Mindy Beach. Every day of the year it gathers the crowds. A yacht silhouette as the sun slides into the Timor Sea, on its way into the Indian Ocean. At the eastern end of Darwin Airport's runway, the red-tailed cockatoos come every night to roost in dead branches or dead trees. Here we have Mr. and Mrs. Redtail. Mr. has a genuine red tail, as you can see, but Mrs. can only generate an orange-yellow imitation. A day trip to the east of Darwin brings us to South Alligator River. As the explorers in this original, as the original explorers here thought that these weren't crocs, but they thought they were alligators. I think they must have got their Americas mixed up with Australia. Here, our first glimpse of a salty croc for which we have great respect. They can grow up to 6 meters long. From our little boat, they were being tempted by whole raw chickens on the end of poles, hence they were getting quite close to us. I don't think this one needs a dentist. The sound of their jaws closing is enough to shiver any timbers. A magnificent frangipani in the only town in Kakadu, Jabiru, with a population of 750 people in 2021. The numbers have been declining ever since the closure of the Ranger uranium mine. South of Jabiru, we had a magnificent day on the Yellow River, which spills beyond its banks in the wet, blanketed with water lilies. Also, my favourite bird was here, as it walks on water, thanks to the lily pads that carry it. Their technical name is jacana. The freshwater crocs also inhabit the water lilies. Flocks of plumed whistling ducks with distinctive high-pitched whistling calls. I'm sorry I can't play you any. We were blessed to find a Nankin night heron taking its stand. As we set off back south, we dropped into Kakadu caves in a patch of limestone. The stalactites were sometimes, not in this shot, sometimes stained black on account of the bushfires above. Above ground, a magnificent display of sooted, stained clints and grikes, the tooth bits being the clints and the grikes being the cavity between the clints. We stopped at Churchill's Head twice, one going north and one going south. It is so named after a rocky outcrop that looks like Britain's wartime Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, at sunset, but we actually never saw it. The foreground shows the old Stuart Highway, the new road being over the hill on the left there. A little further south, the Devil's Marbles, granite outcrops weathered by the extremes of heat and cold into rounded balls. The hospitality here at Barrow Creek was most welcome. This place is a landmark on account of the overland telegraph station built here in 1872, and more recently it is renowned for the disappearance on the 14th of July 2001 of British backpacker Peter Falconio, as he and Joanna Lees were attacked as they drove through the night on this remote section of the Stuart Highway. Here we are, retaking the photograph we took of Alice Springs on our first visit in 1992. The town has not grown much since, but the centre seems to be cleaned up a bit, although it was quiet. Turning 180 degrees from that shot, we saw the latest and greatest innovation of the Northern Territory Police Department. Cameras, lights, loudspeakers, action as needed. Simpson's Gap in the West Macdonald Ranges, 20 minutes from Alice. Simpson was the president of the Royal Geographical Society South Australian branch in the 1870s. The Simpson Desert, slightly southeast of Alice, is also named after him. Ellery Creek, named after Robert Ellery, who explored the area in 1872. He was a Victorian astronomer. Ormiston Gorge towards sunset. Before hitting Ayers Rock, we turned right and did the 6-kilometre rim walk of Kings Canyon with 30-metre cliffs so sheer on account of the hard sandstone on top and the soft sandstone underneath. We were staying at Curtin Springs, where we had camped with the family in 1992. It's a working cattle station of 1 million acres, over 4,000 square kilometres. We had to get diesel here because we were so far from anywhere else, and it was about $3 per litre. Ayers Rock, otherwise known as Uluru. Here is the route our family took 30 years ago. The chain has been removed at the start of the climb. The north face of Ayers Rock shows it does rain here from time to time. It's hard red sandstone, known as a monolith, where the strata has been turned vertically by tectonic forces. It now stands at 345 metres above the plain and, in fact, 863 metres above sea level. The Olgas, 1,066 metres above sea level, also known as Kakadu, is akin to an iceberg, as there are 6 kilometres of it concealed by the eroded sediment which basically comprise the Central Australian plains. Into South Australia, we camped in Coober, Pedy, famous for its opal mines, from where most of the opals are exported to India and China. Just over the border into Victoria, we camped on the shores of Serviceton Reservoir. And finally, a pit stop in Horse Gap on the northern slopes of the Grampians. These spectacular mountains are made of Devonian sandstone. We eventually got back home after about 6 weeks and covering 11,600 kilometres. Thanks for watching. Hit the thumbs up if you so like this, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. God bless. Bye for now.